Hello, everybody. All right, this video we're talking about cover letters. Fun fact, I had to make this video several times because of my cat and then the fire alarm. All right, let's do screen share. All right, so I actually have two bad examples of a cover letter. This is a genre that some say is on the decline. My theory actually is that it's a very useful thing to ask for when you're hiring. However, people are really bad at writing cover letters. Like they've been so bad at it for so many decades that I think people employers just some of them stopped asking for cover letters because they just didn't get anything out of reading them. But it's very clear when someone knows how to write a good cover letter, and it goes a long way. So this video we're going to go over not the whole genre and all its details. If you want help with your cover letter and etc., then you can make an appointment with me, but some general strategies. So let me just start off. The cover letter, the number one mistake that people make with a cover letter is they fail to see that the purpose of this document is to announce that you're applying to something, but really it's to show that you are qualified and to discuss your qualifications and to prove them and to talk through them. Okay? What the mistake people make is that they treat it as um, a a document to show passion or love. It's kind of like in the I think it's like cartoon shows and movies when someone's applying for a job or like writing, trying to get into a college or a program. They'll often say things like, "It's been my dream to be a chef ever since I was 4, and I have a passion for cooking and I love it, and I think about garlic all the time." If you ever find yourself writing a sentence like that in a cover letter that involves the word love or passion, just delete it and start over. The purpose of this document is not to show your passion. It is to show your qualifications. So instead of saying, I've wanted to be a chef since I was 4, say, I worked as a sous chef at such and such kitchen where I focused on, I don't know, certain types of seafood techniques and, things like that. Obviously, if you were applying to a chef job, I don't think they really do cover letters, but that's the kind of example of what you should say is what you have done and how you approached that experience and what you accomplished in it, not what your passion and love is. So, for example, this is a horrible sentence for a cover letter paragraph. I believe this position will greatly suit my love for collaborative writing and editing because all it says is that this is a sentence about what the position will do for the person, not about what this person will do for them or how they are qualified. So that's the number one mistake. The second mistake that people make when they write cover letters is they focus specifically when students write cover letters is apologies if you can hear the sirens. That's just the fire alarm, fire department being silly. Is they will say they will position themselves as a student, not a professional. You want to sound like a professional, okay? So here's an example of a student writing like a student. At this such and such job as a writing center tutor, I gained the ability to work and edit. Okay. Very passive language. Someone else gave them something, an opportunity or a learning option. It's great to have those opportunities and to learn things on a job, but this phrasing is horrible. And so instead of saying, at this job, I learned blah, you should say, at as a writing center tutor, I mentored a variety of students across the disciplines and worked with genres in such and such way. So that difference between I learned and I mentored is a huge difference. And you want to be on the right, you want to use those active verbs that show that position you as someone who does things, not as someone who receives knowledge, if that makes sense. Okay. The other suggestion I have for these cover letters is to really get into detail about how you do things. So here's this first cover letter is actually a cover letter I wrote. Um, many years ago when I was a graduate student. I was applying for a teaching position. And you can see in my body paragraph that, I say I have an extensive teaching background. Okay. So that's qualifications. And then I just kind of list, I taught this place, and then I taught at this place, and then I taught at this place. And if I were to write this again, I would do it differently because generally you want to go for quality over quantity when you're writing a cover letter paragraph, and you really want to get into the details. How did I approach teaching freshman writing? What were my assignments? What types of things did I emphasize? There's so many different ways you can teach that class. How did I approach giving feedback to students, and constructing, a syllabus? I wish I had talked. I mean, I got the job, spoiler alert. But I wish I had talked. It would have been better if I had talked about my approach to one thing as opposed to just listing a bunch of things that you can find on the resume. So that, by the way, that is also how you sound like a professional or an insider. Is you talk about the approach you took to, say, I don't know, working at a particular lab, or a particular approach to auditing. I'm stuck on those examples today, but if that's what you fill the paragraph with, is your qualifications, what you accomplished, and how you approached it, makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. Okay, so you usually have, in terms of, I'm just going to zoom out. You usually have like an opening paragraph where you kind of announce what you're applying for. Remember that any particular company may be hiring multiple things at a time, so make that clear, and where you found the job. Then you have a sentence that's like what your main qualification is. For most of you, it'll be you're a student. Maybe you could have two sentences if you have a particular important, you know, I don't know, maybe one sentence. And then you have a sort of general claim about why you're a good fit. You have your body paragraphs that generally open with a topic sentence about one of your qualifications, and then you describe what we just talked about. You might have another second paragraph that does the same thing but with a different qualification or experience. And then you have this unusual paragraph. I call this a fit or a style paragraph. This is where these are a little optional, but it is where you will close gaps between that explain why you are suitable for this job, and in a unique way. So let me give you an example. That's kind of hard to understand. I was applying for a teaching position, teaching a web design class to English majors. That is a little bit of a technical class for English graduate students to teach. It involves knowing HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Nobody teaches you that. And many English graduate students don't know it. And so I wanted to communicate that not only do I know it, but I learned it myself. And that if there are gaps between what I know and what I need to teach, that I will be able to handle it. Okay. And sometimes this sounds like talking about a passion. You can see I've sort of broke my rule from before. But what it really is me trying to explain that I am a good fit for this position, even though it looks like I'm not. Okay. A lot of you will be in a position like this at some point where you're applying for a job and you think you can do it, but it's a little different from your background. Okay. Or it's a little bit different than some of the classes you've taken, or like than a person of your profile would normally, be good at. So there's often a good culture or fit paragraph, that can help you gives you a space to explain why you are a good fit. You can also do this sort of at the end of the body paragraph. Okay, and then there's usually some salutations at the end. All right. So, again, I'm not going to ask you to write any cover letters or resumes for this class. However, I believe that if you can write a good cover letter, then you can pretty much write anything, assuming you have time and knowledge of the genre. And so I would say, if you want help with your cover letters, or you want me to look at a sample, I'm happy to give you feedback, but you'd have to arrange a time to meet with me. Just send me an email. Happy to chat. And that is it.